sharing my screen. Slideshow. Got it. All right, I hope everyone can see my screen. Welcome. Thank you everyone for joining today. I'm really excited to get 3DEP for the Nation back and rolling. NSGIC, I know from reviewing previous state objectives and technical summaries that folks have found a lot of value to having a single place where federal, state vendors can come together, share ideas, best practices, and just have a sounding board for collaboration on 3DEP efforts across the nation. I'm Jordan Regine. I'm the new NSGIC 3DEP for the Nation program manager, and I'm excited to work with all of you. So today should be a pretty brief meeting, hopefully a little bit of fun as we go through a couple of these things. We're going to go ahead and start out with a little bit of introductions. I'm going to do an introduction of myself, and then we're going to do a breakout rooms. Hopefully 4 people in a breakout room. Everyone can have 2 minutes to go through where they're from, what they do, what they're excited about. We've got some topics there. That way people can, either rekindle old connections, meet new people, and foster a little bit of community here. We'll hear a USGS update. I'll briefly touch on some state team priorities that we gathered through a survey and a state team meeting last week. And then we'll get into a group activity at the end to gather ideas around interest group, webinar, and content topics so that we can produce meetings, content, and webinars that is important to you guys and that will actually make a difference in your 3DEP efforts. So we'll move along here. Like I said, I'm Jordan Regine. I'm the NSGIC 3DEP for the Nation program manager. I've been working with geospatial data since 2013 when I led Microsoft's global operation team for the acquisition, processing, and production of all of the geospatial data that went into Microsoft's Bing Maps. My team produced the street side and the first 3D cities that Microsoft put out in their map application and Bing Maps. At the time, Bing Maps was kind of like Google's redheaded stepchild, but since those building footprints have come into prominence, I think there's a little bit of competition there, but I am, of course, biased. I then made the shift over to Uber, where my team collected data globally with a much more emphasis on street level data, and we moved Uber's application off of the Google's map platform onto our proprietary maps that we produced. Then I, for some reason or another, pursued my lifelong dream to go to law school. I graduated from CU Law in 2020, where I focused on telecommunications and utility law. I really learned how data is used, how it's collected, and how it's important to not just a legal function, but also the business functions for those entities. And I learned that I did not want to practice law. I love operations and technology. So since then, I've been helping folks improve their business operations by streamlining and improving geospatial workflows. And I'm really excited to leverage that experience to serve as this focal and nexus point between states, federal government, and vendors to improve our national data sets and all of the cool things that come from it. So with that, I'd like to break folks out into rooms so that you have an opportunity to make some introductions, hopefully amongst each other, meet some new people, reconnect. And then we're just going to do that for 12 minutes. We should have 4 people per room. So each person take about 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Start with the alphabetically by first name. Each person should take 2 minutes and then just do a general overview of who you are, where you're coming from, what you do, and then most importantly, what are some successes you've had recently as far as 3DEP goes that you'd like to roll into the 2023-2024 project year? And then what are some of the biggest challenges that you see coming up for your organization in this project year? So we're going to go ahead and break out. Looks like we have about 40 participants, so that's 10 breakout rooms. So let's see here. I'm going to set these up here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open these rooms. You guys are gonna go in there. You'll have 12 minutes and I'll let you know when we're gonna come back.
Like some of us have made it back to the main room.
You got to reconnect with some folks, have good conversations, insight into what people are excited about, and maybe even commiserate over shared challenges or share information on how you guys can overcome those challenges. So we do have Ryan Hadley from USGS on the line. He will provide a USGS update and give us the state of where things are.
All right, Jordan, thanks. I'll just caution, I got dropped a couple times having some internet issues at home today. So if I suddenly check out, it's not because I'm intentionally ditching everybody here. So hopefully my internet will cooperate for the next couple minutes. Dan Ross, I see your picture, and hi. I hope you're well. Yeah, quick update for USGS. 94% of the nation is now in progress or available. It probably in reality it's 94.5 or something like that, but we like to round to larger numbers just for keeping things on the safe side. We're still compiling the final numbers for the year, and so it's something in that range. So we got about 6% to go. And what I will note is when you look at the map here, the medium green color for pending contributed represents about 4% of the nation. And the acquisition strategy for FY24 is to try to reduce some of that pending contributed. And we're going to work towards that. We have a backlog with the operations team. Walter Cloth and I are trying to strategize some ways to make that work. See if we can get some of those data sets moved off from contributed into the actual holdings as meeting 3DEP. So we're making great progress. And the DCA went out. So I want to say it was in mid-August. For the 3DEP part, we've received, Jordan's slide is out of date by about 48 hours. We received 15 proposals so far, and we accepted about 7 of them. That might be up a number as well, so I say about 7. But in the next meeting, I should be able to give a little more clarification on the locations of those projects, so folks can see that. And then, yeah, another point here: the 3D NTM call for action for next gen 3DEP is in its finalization stages. My supervisor Vicki Lucas was working with Dewberry on getting the final version of that completed. I think we are very close to having that across the finish line. So that will be available for folks to see. Many of you have already seen it and commented on it, but it really lays out the strategy and the framework for the next gen 3DEP program, acquisition strategies. We're going to be going to QL1 is an option. It'll be a QL1, QL2 model. But in the past, USGS would not partner on QL1. We will partner on QL1 moving forward. There's going to be integration of inland bathy. That's still a work in progress, but we are working on that. And I think for some folks, not sure if anyone from Alaska is on the call today, but Alaska will be available for partnership opportunities for LiDAR data. I know there's a lot of folks up there that are interested in that. It's good news for them. So that's just sort of a little quick overview of where USGS is at. As I said, the FY24 data acquisition plan is coming into focus. We are a little bit going to be a little cautious with proceeding while we don't have a federal budget. And so hopefully by February, we'll have a clearer idea of more of the details of how much funds we have and a better picture of where we're going to actually be doing work in FY24. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Brian, this is Phil.
Phil, how are you?
So question about the timing wise, it sounds like that with this new call to action stuff, that if it's out in the February timeframe, are you going to be attending the mid-year, and might that be a presentation, a formal presentation of that 3D NTM part 2 that could be?
So Phil, right now I'm not planning on it. I don't know that February has turned into be the month for geospatial conferences and meetings, and I've got a lot of things on my calendar that month, and
it's actually in March.
I'm sorry.
It's actually in March, the 24th.
Is it in March? Okay.
Yeah. In DC.
I'll talk with Jordan and Lindsay about that. I can't commit to it right now.
No, that's fine. I just think it'd be
no,
even if not you, maybe someone else.
Yeah, I do think some of the UE folks will probably, user engagement folks, we tend to get a little too acronym heavy in the government. So I think there will be some folks there, and so potentially we could figure out something. I would plan on giving a much more detailed overview of it during the annual meeting next fall, Phil. But we'll work with you guys and see what we can figure out. It's obviously something people want to hear about.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Minnesota.
John, what's up?
So just a quick question here. High level response expected only. Middle bullet there on establishing inland bathymetry best practices. So I've been serving as a bit of an advisor in Minnesota on inland bathy or topobathy, and largely trying to, pair progressive thinking and wishes in Minnesota with the vision of the USGS and the 3D nation and the role of topobathy. All that said, could you give us a quick rundown of really who's involved and behind establishing the inland bathymetric best practices? I'm guessing it's USGS and a lot of other partners. I need something just to go where I'm going with this, Brian, is to bring back some snippets of information to colleagues who really want to bring topobathy to Minnesota.
Great question. And so I believe, and I was just trying to just thumb through who was on, wasn't sure, and anyone else from USGS. Sean, so right now, I believe the Army Corps is leading the effort to essentially come up with a bathymetry-based specification. So as I view it, something sort of analogous to what the LBS is. That would set sort of collection requirements and base requirements that we would be able to then share with our contracting partners, that we would have something that we could work towards, we could validate, we'd have a baseline spec. That is, I believe, relatively far along. Last I heard, and we talked about it about 8 months ago now, 7 months ago, when we had a 3DEP meeting and a combined 3DEP 3DHP meeting. So some discussion from, I can't think of the gentleman's name right now, who came, Nick Johnson, I want to say, from Army Corps of Engineers, came and gave an overview on the base specification. Sean, I think that's really what it is that you're probably after. And I'll tell you what, let me check with Cindy Thatcher and a couple of the other Lynn Bathy folks that are on my team. I'll get you some of that info. And then I think that's probably gonna get at what you're looking for.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the intent wasn't to, try to stump you on that. It's
No, you're all good.
Inland Bathy is very complicated and has so many different parameters that we need to be aware of. But when folks are reading and hearing about it and seeing brochures, it sounds very easy to acquire. It sounds like, hey, let's get a sensor in here, let's make this happen. And I've had to put the brakes on and provide some education in Minnesota, and I've recently heard some talk about best practices or specifications, like you said, like the LBS, and I hope it's more like the LBS. I actually see LiDAR-based specifications more of a protocol that you must follow versus best practices, which are something that could or should be followed. I hope we see a tightening of the requirements for must follow versus would be nice if. And take that as some feedback back to your team, because I think the possibility for errors and complications with bathymetric collection in lakes, especially in Minnesota, a lot of turbidity, waves. I mean, the list goes on and on. Everyone has to be aware of that and the additional complications. And well, I'll stop there. I think I'm just kind of rambling. I'm talking to you and others, and like I'm in support of this, yet I want to get my hands on it. So
yeah, Sean,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on whoever was going to speak up there. Please.
Well, sorry to interrupt. This is Sean Scholler from Indiana. Sean, I appreciate your conversation, because Indiana, the DNR office has had projects that they want to collect, Bathy data, or thinking that they can collect Bathy data, on the the White River for 30 miles through the metropolitan part of Indianapolis, and again, that sort of got backed out. We looked at other alternatives, and I'm just not sure exactly where the technology is in terms of supporting being able to support this. So we're also interested in learning more about what the USGS and other states are doing.
I would think, sorry, I'm talking over someone. I'll make this real quick. I would think that NSGIC could almost dedicate a meeting to topobathy or bathymetric collection and bring better understanding to it. It's probably going to be a mashup of data, sensors from both LiDAR and sonar. And it's just not, there's just a lot of complications that folks need to be aware of out there. So I'll stop there. Thank you for the input opportunity.
Yeah, good comments, and I appreciate the input from both Seans. And in Jordan, you and I can talk about this. Maybe this is maybe this is a good opportunity for a future topic, as Sean suggested. We'd have somebody come in, maybe a couple of folks, Jeff Danielson, Cindy Thatcher, could come in and give some overviews on the Bathy program. We could maybe have the person who came and talked about the specifications at our 3DHP meeting last spring. Let's get together about that, and we'll address that. I think it's a good topic for this group.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Sean. Great input. All right. Any other questions for Brian? Great. All right. Keep on cruising. Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate the update. And thank you, Sean, for the discussion. I think topobathy is on a lot of folks' mind, and we'd love to produce some content, webinar, in order to help guide that discussion and bring folks together to gain some clarity there. All right, so the next order of business, we've got state team priorities. So we met with the state team last week and had a state team survey sent out. The state team survey is still live. So any folks who are representing states that didn't have a chance to take that, we would still love your submittals or your submissions so we can guide that content generation that we have and understand where you are and your objectives so we can most effectively support you. A couple of the highlights out of the state priorities. Funding is top of mind for everyone, right? We have these ambitious goals. We are, I think, at heart geospatial nerds, and it takes a lot to do what we know we can do with the technology in terms of operations, logistics, technology, supporting infrastructure, and the money to fund that is a big deal. So top of mind for a lot of folks is not just how do we fund this current initiative, but how do we gain sustained funding for future efforts? How do we make the case for data refresh? And so those are some big topics that you can expect us to be putting some content out for. If you have any success in your state, gaining sustained funding, we'd love to hear from you so we can use that as a blueprint. And of course, we'll leverage those materials that we have in the past. The planning guide that Linda and Phil did an excellent job putting together. Data storage, management, and access. That is a big one. Do you do it in the cloud? Do you do it in locally? And how do you staff it, right? How do you actually make it happen so that folks can gain access to the data and use it, and it doesn't just sit in a dark corner somewhere? And then that big one kind of flows into the third one is how do we get this into the hands of folks across our state, into the private sector? How do we get people access to the data so we can produce derivative products and really realize that ROI and make it work for folks across all of our stakeholders. So those are some of the big priorities that are coming out of the states that NSGIC we will be folding into our content schedule and our meeting schedule to help you support those. Anything big here that is top of mind for folks that didn't make this priority list, or you're like, wow, I can't believe that maybe this got skipped over? Okay. Awesome. So I will keep on moving. We've got one last thing. I'd like to break out into rooms again. And again, this meeting I see as a kickoff, rekindle the 3DEP flames, and really position ourselves to get into 2024 on the best foot, hit the ground running. So I'd love to gather some more data from you guys while I have you on what you want to see, what's important to you. So I'd love to break you out into rooms again, have a conversation in those rooms, and then we'll come together and gain a little bit of an activity. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop a link to this Jamboard that I have put together. And in your rooms, discuss as your room, what are two things that are really critical, have been critical to your success that you'd like to share information about? And then what are two things that are gaps in your knowledge or that you don't feel as comfortable about that you'd love to see more information about? So this way we can really get that community out there. So I'm dropping a link to this Jamboard in the chat. So in your group, each group should produce 4 cards. And at the end, we'll vote on which cards everyone likes the most. And then we'll have a nice little bit of data that we can make sure we're producing content that you guys really want. So I'm going to break you out into rooms. And we'll get going. So we're not going to spend too long in here. We'll just go for 6 minutes. So real short and sweet. Try to be as concise as possible. I'm going to recreate these rooms based off of 26 participants. So great. All right, and then we'll see you guys back here in about 8 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Great. All right, hello everyone. Got some great stuff on the Jamboard here. Reliable funding, big topic. I like this. Successful, easy data access and information for users on how to apply data in Tennessee and Kentucky. Right on. I like specific. So we've got some great ideas here. If you have the time, put some of these thumbs. Go ahead and drag one of these thumbs to the ones that you like, that you'd love to see some content about. Feel free to add even more. More data for me is better. And I'm sure all of you are in a similar wavelength. More data is better, generally, but not always. But I'll leave that link open. You guys can peruse around there at your discretion. As far as what we have left in this meeting, I just final reminders. I have a content idea form, and I'll drop a link to that in this meeting. I'm sure you guys can see where my head is at. I want to make sure we're producing stuff that you really want. So I'm going to put a link to this form in the chat. It'll also go out in this deck when I send it out. But feel free to submit this form if you have any ideas or want to volunteer to host a webinar. If you have something you really want to share, we'd love to hear from you. We have a state team meeting and another interest group meeting in February. I'll send that reminders out and registration links out. And then we spoke earlier, I think Phil brought it up, but March 24th to 28th is the NSGIC mid-year meeting. That will be in Arlington, Virginia. We hope to see you there. That's all I have for everyone. Love to give you some time back in your day. And thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate your input, the lively conversation, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks a lot, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Paul. What's up,
Hey,
man?
Paul here from Tennessee. Just real quickly on the form, is there a way you can open the form up where you don't need a Google account, or do you have it locked down for a specific? I mean, I can use a personal account if I want to, but since we're Microsoft for the state.
I don't. Did you just open it up and it requires a Google account?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, let me get in there and see. I thought I had made it open.
I can try it in a incognito just to make sure. Yeah, it says sign in to continue to forms.
Nice. I appreciate you letting me know about that. A lot of people would just, let's see.
No problem. Thanks for the meeting and thanks for the coordination.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. I'm excited about it. Hopefully, hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you have any feedback, I'm all ears. Yeah, I have responder input. All right, I'll figure out these settings and where is that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you for your patience here.
No problem. Happy to help.
Okay, you should be good now.
Yep, got it. Perfect. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one.
You too, man. Tara, Sean, anything I can help you guys with?
No, I just haven't ended yet. I was typing in on the Jamboard, so I'll be disconnected.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna hop off. Thank you for your participation, Sean. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Sounds good. Same to you. Take care.